Evening, everyone. Welcome council, staff, and residents. I would like to call this meeting to order. And joining me in the chambers is our clerk, Ms. Defoe, deputy clerk, Mr. Bantock, our CAO, Ms. Thompson, and director of corporate services, Ms. Kruger. Regrets tonight will be from director of social services, Kim McElroy. If you would join me for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. And I'll turn the meeting over to our clerk, Ms. Defoe. The meeting is yours.
Through you, your worship. Item 2 is declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations? And if so, please state the general nature thereof.
Seeing none.
Item 3 is adoption of the minutes, and there is a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council of the corporation of the city of Stratford dated November 14th, November 21st, and November 28th, 2022 be adopted as printed.
A mover for such. Thank you, Councillor Beatty. Second by Councillor Burbach. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Seeing none. Councillor Hunter, I see your hand.
Thank you, your worship. Just a point of order on the November 14th minutes. I was not present and most of the new council weren't, I think, but should we abstain from voting on that particular minutes?
I'll turn it to the clerk, but certainly it's been moved by and seconded by somebody present, but I'll turn it to the clerk for final comments.
So through your worship, so it is practice that the minutes of a regular meeting and a special council meeting are adopted at the following regular council meeting. Because the last meeting was held on November 14th, the last day before the new term started, it is okay for this council to approve and adopt those minutes. And I'm just looking to the CAO to see if there's anything further she would like to add.
Just in addition to the clerk's response through you, Mayor Ritzma, I would just also like to advise that at the November the 14th council meeting, council at that time also passed the confirmatory bylaw, which confirmed all their actions and decisions made at that meeting. So that was an additional, I guess, confirmatory bylaw that was done. And so it would be my recommendation to you that you do need to adopt the November the 14th minutes, even though you may not have been present at that meeting.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Hunter. Follow up? No. Okay, so it's been moved and second. I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Item 4, adoption of the addendum. Just prior to today's meeting, an addendum was circulated, and there is a motion that the addendum to the regular agenda of council and standing committees dated December 12th, 2022, to add a delegation be added to the agenda as printed.
So mover for the addenda for tonight, Councillor Hunter, and second by Councillor McCabe. Any discussion? If not, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Your worship, item 5 is report of the Committee of the Whole in Camera session. Item 5.1, the December 12th, 2022 Committee of the Whole in Camera session was canceled. So moving to your addendum, item 6, hearings of deputations and presentations, and item 6.1 is a request for delegation by Ken Wood. And there is a motion that the delegation by Ken Wood regarding the animal control services contract be heard.
Thank you. A mover for that. Councillor Henderson will move and Councillor Niger will second. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you. And I'll look to the clerk to bring Mr. Wood into the meeting. Thank you. Or the deputy clerk. Thank you, Mr. Bantock.
Hi, Ken, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Go right ahead. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Okay, I have sent reasons for why I think that the extension of the contract for Stratford Perth Humane that does our outsourced animal control for the city, instead of it being 2 years, I think it should only be the 1 year. And I have some concerns about the costs Because if I go back from 2016 onwards, the increase was like a couple of thousand a year and no more than that. And now suddenly we're at 30,000. I gave some reasons in my submission that I hope everybody got a copy of, that basically the one of the reasons that Stratford Purse said that they needed extra money was because of the pandemic. But in fact, loss of licensing during the pandemic. But in fact, during the pandemic, there are surveys that have been done across Canada and in BC, and global TV reports that 3 in 10 people adopted pets during the pandemic. Like there was a great increase in adoptions. So it's more a problem of enforcement. But there's no reason why there shouldn't have been licensing during the pandemic. It was a bit of a boom time. But now we've got, I guess the chickens are coming home to roost. We've got another problem that now that people are going back to work, pet rescues and humanes are getting swamped with abandoned and surrendered animals, mostly dogs. So I'd urge you to consider the cost on that. I also have a major concern that previous council was somewhat negligent in not passing a new animal bylaw. The animal bylaw that you have on your books is signed by Karen Haslam from 2002, and it's consolidated with updates up to 2014. There was an animal bylaw working group that was struck by the city, and a major survey was done of all people in the city to get their views on all kinds of things and recommendations and how it should be changed. And the intent was that we were going to review and renew the bylaw and bring it up to date. That has not been done. So 4 years later, I suggest that what we should be doing is let's have a look at that bylaw. Let's have City Council pass that bylaw. I do know that you need to continue with the contract with Stratford Perth Humane for 1 year, but I wouldn't go into 2 years because many of the new council may not be aware that there are some performance requirements in the old contract. They have to report various stats on how many calls they get, how quickly they pick up animals, what their service levels are, what their euthanasia levels are, all kinds of things. And I think that that's something that really deserves a good look before you enter into a 2-year contract. So I guess that is, in a nutshell, what I'm saying that we should be doing on this. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wood, and I'll remind council that this item will be coming up in 7.1, the item to follow. Anything further from council? Councillor Henderson and Councillor Hunter.
I wonder if staff could do a follow-up about what we did with the committee that looked at the bylaw and made recommendations and where it's at, because my understanding is we have adopted most of it and there was a few things they were still working on because of COVID. I wonder if we could have an update for staff so that Ken's aware of that and anybody else listening.
I'll look to the clerk for her comments on that, or the CAO. Go ahead.
Through you, your worship. So for this council, previously the Animal Control Bylaw Working Group made about 15 recommendations that were adopted by council. Staff were working through the various recommendations because some of them had implications for the animal control bylaw and had to be reviewed and considered first prior to adopting a new bylaw and repealing the former one. Due to staffing issues, other priorities, the pandemic, we haven't been able to finalize a newly revised bylaw. And by newly revised, I mean presenting a brand new bylaw for council's consideration and repealing the old one. At this time, it's my understanding this project is not currently in the work plan. However, I would look to our CAO or our director to provide any additional comments. If there are specific questions about the various recommendations, I'm happy to answer further.
Anything to add, Ms. Thompson or Mr. Krinkla at this time? And I know the item's coming forward, so I'm going to turn to Councillor Hunter. You had a question?
Thank you. Through your worship, a question for Mr. Wood. Is there an alternate provider that would, because in trying to get prices lowered, having some competition is good. I don't know that there is an alternate provider that's a viable option. And just a question whether we're getting value for a 1-year contract versus a 2.
Just in response to that, like most cities, especially small cities, there's usually only one game in town for getting outsourced work. Just a little history: the city of Toronto had Toronto Humane as their main animal services people, but they tried to hold them up for ransom, and it requested a 38% increase in 1 year. And the city said, no, we'll do it on our own. Now, a $1 trillion city can do those kinds of things, but we're pretty much limited to what we've got in terms of supports. But I would say that there are so many recommendations in that bylaw, and although Bonnie said that recommendations have been passed, they're not in law, they're not in the bylaw. If you look on your city website, it's still the same bylaw that's signed by Karen Haslam. You really need to actually pass it in council. I would suggest that a 1-year contract, and refer this, and I would suggest to community services. Interesting note, for some reason, animal control is under the roads budget. I don't know if that's because they think it's all pickup or what, but it's actually a city service, not unlike transit or anything else. It should probably be part of community services, in my view. I think maybe this needs a closer look and some time. And there's no reason why you can't do a 1-year extension and then look at it later. That's been done before.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. I see Councillor Henderson's hand. Go ahead, Councillor Henderson.
Well, I was on the ITS committee at 1 year, and they fall under the safety part of it. So I know we had a couple incidents where dogs had bit somebody, and they had to come to that committee, and then we had to review what was going to happen, whether the dog was put down or whether they had to wear. And in both cases, they ended up going for training and had to wear muzzles when they were out in the street. I think the one dog even had to wear one in his backyard. So that's why it's under infrastructure, transportation, and safety. So it comes under the safety part. And that's why, but I mean, that doesn't mean it has to stay there, but just that's the explanation for it.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. If there's nothing further, I thank you, Mr. Wood, for presenting tonight, and I'll ask the clerk to take us back to the next item.
Thank you.
Through you, your worship, returning to your regular council agenda, item 7.7 is orders of the day, and item 7.1 is a resolution regarding the extension of the existing animal control service contract. And there is a staff recommendation that council approve the terms to extend the existing animal control services contract for 2023, facilitated through the Humane Society of Kitchener-Waterloo and Stratford Perth, and that council authorize the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services to extend the contract to 2024 upon confirmation that only CPI, the Consumer Price Index adjustments apply.
A mover for that item. Thank you, Councillor Beattie. A second. Thank you, Councillor Niger. Questions and comments? Councillor Seven.
Thank you. I'm wondering if Mr. Krinkla could speak to if there are indeed any other service providers, and if they have wanted to be involved with this, or if there just aren't any other ones.
Mr. Krinkla, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, through your worship. So at the time this contract was initially written, I wasn't in this position, so I don't know the details of the background study done at that time. However, if you look at the report, the Kitchener-Waterloo, Stratford Perth Humane Society services a vast majority of the municipalities in the surrounding area. So I anticipate there would be the only one shop in town, for lack of better words. So as far as I'm aware of, they're the only provider.
Great, thank you.
Anything further? Councillor Niger, I see your hand. Thank you. Go ahead.
Now, is there a financial benefit if we did a 2-year over a 1 year? Or is there a penalty if we decide to do 1 year and then chose to go with the second year?
Director Krinkla.
Yes, through your worship. The contract arrangement or the agreements and the terms in there are stationary, or they're set already as it is for the most part. So going from year to year, the only difference would be a CPI adjustment. That and also the going into a contract earlier on, which just means that the staff would have to do the preparation work to considering the new contract in advance. That's all.
Anything further? Councillor Burback, thank you.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Mr. Crinklaw. Just curious about the confirmation that the CPI adjustments, when will you hear back about that? And if that isn't the case and they decide that they want to ask for more than the CPI index, does it come back to us then for approval?
Through your worship. So that is the intent, that if anything changes beyond what's already is the existing contract, that we come back to council for direction at that time. And at this point, the CPI adjustments would be the only thing that would be in consideration for going on for an additional year.
Anything further? So item 7.1 has been moved and seconded. Staff recommendation. If there's nothing further, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Through your worship, I see Councillor Burback's hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Burback, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a note based on what Mr. Woods was talking about. I'm wondering if we could ask staff to put the animal control bylaw back on the work list. Is that possible? Can I make a motion that we might recommend that would happen?
Refer that back to staff.
Yes, please.
Thank you. And a seconder for that motion. Thank you, Councillor Briscoe. Councillor Seven, I see your hand.
Can I just have clarification? Are we making a motion to refer this to see if it's feasible, or are we making a motion that staff bring the bylaw forward?
Councillor Burback, the intent?
Yeah, my intention was that we asked staff to bring it back onto the work list.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson?
I just have a question. You know, staff mentioned that there was like around 15 recommendations. I think there was the one about the chickens or something that we didn't pass, but how are we enforcing or following them if we pass them and accepted them at a council meeting without them being in the bylaw? Is there like an attachment that staff is going by? How is that working? If we're using those recommendations.
Turn to the clerk for that, please.
So through your worship, so any of the recommendations that didn't have a bylaw implication have basically been actioned. The few that required further staff reports, we were working through them. Anything that is requiring an amendment or a new bylaw, it's currently not being enforced as it's not included in the bylaw. So we would need to bring that forward either as an amending bylaw or a new bylaw in order for them to be enforced.
So how do people in the city of Stratford know about the recommendations then if it's not actually in the bylaw?
Go ahead, Ms. Defoe.
So through you, your worship, there is a webpage on the city's website all about animal control, and there's a whole section on the animal control bylaw working group and their recommendations. So members of the public can see the recommendations that were put forward by the animal control bylaw working group and which were adopted by council. However, the next step would have been to present a new bylaw for consideration. And as noted, staff were unable to do that due to a variety of reasons.
Thank you.
Anything further? I'm going to ask Councillor Seven, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. I'm just, so the bylaw that would be brought forward if we move this motion would be the new animal control bylaw with the recommendations that were adopted by council prior to, I think it was 2 terms ago, or whenever that was, but is that correct, my understanding, or would the recommendations be brought forward again to be considered by council?
I'll turn to the clerk, Ms. Defoe.
So through your worship, so the likely intent would be to prepare a report, just to note the previously adopted resolutions, discuss the amendments that came forward as part of those recommendations. Given the time passed, there are likely additional amendments that staff would recommend for consideration. A draft bylaw would be presented and then it would be listed for adoption at a future regular meeting. Please let me know if you have any other questions about that process.
Councillor Seven.
Thank you. So so when that comes forward, there would be an opportunity for council to potentially adopt one of the recommendations that may not have been adopted previously. Is that correct? That would be appropriate when it comes forward.
Madame Defoe.
So through your worship, yes, because it would be before a new term of council, this council could choose to adopt a motion for something that wasn't previously actioned. And we'd be happy to put all this information into a management report. So that way this council is aware of all the recommendations made by the animal control bylaw working group, those that were adopted previously by council, those that have been incorporated, and then there could be another opportunity for additional comment and feedback from this council.
Thank you.
Councillor Henderson.
Do you, your worship? I just have one question, I guess. Like, I heard concerns about that it isn't on the current working plan. I wonder if it would help if maybe we're aware of how much work staff is actually working on and the reasons why, because I know COVID put us really far behind. And I know that we've had in my opinion, a huge turnover of staff. So that's a whole new learning curve for people coming in. And maybe it would be helpful for us to know, the reason, like the bylaw for the animal control is we had one that was actually working. We had a working group that came back with some great recommendations. We adopted them and staff has moved forward with that. And just the bylaw part of it to update it has been put on the, I'll say the side burner because of all the other work they're doing. And I know we've had a lot of, building permits and, all kinds of changes going on, plus all the different legislation that's got downloaded to us. So I'd like to ask staff when they feasibly feel they could work on this bylaw. Because if we add it on, that means something else is getting bumped off. And as long as we're doing the recommendations, I guess we have to make a decision about what's the most important here. Bumping something else off and getting this done, or especially since we're following the recommendations. I just want to ask that question.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I appreciate your concern for staff work, and I'll turn it to the CAO for her thoughts on it.
Yes, thank you. Through your worship, I would request, there is a referral motion on the floor, and I would request that the referral be made, and then staff will take this back and we will have a discussion at corporate leadership team on where this could fit into the work plan and what adjustments may need to be made.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. So there is a motion on the floor. If there's no further discussion, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And I believe that was unanimous. Thank you. Just a reminder to make sure when you're voting, get your hand on the screen. Sometimes I'm getting partial hand. So thank you very much. That's been carried.
Through you, your worship, item 7.2 is a resolution regarding the water and sewer billing services agreement with Festival Hydro. And there is a staff recommendation that the corporation of the city of Stratford enter into an agreement with Festival Hydro Inc. to be the service provider for water and sewer billing services for a 3-year term to December 31st, 2025, with 2 optional 1-year extensions, and that the mayor and city clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to sign the necessary agreement.
Is there a mover for the staff recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Hunter, and second by Councillor Wardolfa. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Item 7.3 is a resolution regarding the Stratford landfill public input invited for December 2022. And there is a staff recommendation that council consider any comments received and that the report titled Stratford landfill public input invited December 2022 be received for information.
A motion for that staff recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Burbach, second by Councillor Henderson. Discussion. Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And seeing none, that's unanimous and that's carried. Thank you.
Item 7.4 is a resolution regarding the Kinsman Club Allman Arena booth agreement, and there is a staff recommendation that the corporation of the city of Stratford enter into an agreement with the Kinsman Club of Stratford, Inc. for the operation of the refreshment booth at the William Allman Memorial Arena for a 5-year term to August 31st, 2027, with an option to renew for an additional 5-year term, and that the mayor and clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to sign the concession booth agreement on behalf of the municipal corporation.
A motion to receive or to adopt the staff recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Seven, second by Councillor McCabe. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Item 7.5 is a resolution regarding a tender award, and there is a staff recommendation that the tender T-2022-41 for the replacement of fire alarm systems and associated devices be awarded to EEL Line Corporation at a total cost of $575,509, including HST, and that the mayor and city clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to sign the contract agreement.
Moved by. Thank you, Councillor Henderson, and second by Councillor Burbach. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's unanimous.
Item 7.6 is the appointment of auditors for the Festival Hydro Inc. and Festival Hydro Services Inc. And there is a motion that KPMG LLP be appointed as auditors of Festival Hydro Inc. and Festival Hydro Services Inc. for the purpose of completing audit and taxation services for a 5-year term at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors being hereby authorized to fix such remuneration, and that such appointment commence with the fiscal 2022 audit year for both Festival Hydro Inc. and Festival Hydro Services Inc.
That's moved by. Thank you, Councillor Niger, and seconded by Councillor Hunter. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Item 7.8 is a resolution regarding the 2022 hazardous materials response provider, and there is a staff recommendation that the corporation of the city of Stratford enter into an agreement with GFL Environmental for hazmat response services for a term of 4 years to August 31st, 2026, as part of a joint agreement with all municipalities in Perth County and Granton, and that the mayor and clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to sign the agreement.
A motion for staff recommendation. Councillor Burbach will move, seconded by Councillor Briscoe. Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Burbach.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would like to ask the fire chief, I'm just curious, do we currently have this type of agreement in place, or did we have one different? Is it the same provider that's going to be renewing a contract, or is this someone new?
Through your worship, this is brand new. We've never had a provider before for the city of Stratford or any other municipality in the county. So this is a new zero cost pay-per-use service that gives us the capability or enhanced level of service for the community to call upon when things are beyond our capabilities or resources.
Thank you. Chief Parity, anything further? Councillor Briscoe.
Thank you. Through your worship, with the zero cost, because it's not a cost unless they're called upon, if another municipality calls upon it, is the cost shared, or that municipality pays the cost from that service provider?
Through your worship, it's that municipality that calls upon GFL within Perth County takes care of it, and the costs are downloaded onto the party that caused the incident or the spill.
Thank you. Anything further? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Ritzma, my sincerest apologies. I seem to have skipped item 7.7. So returning to that item, which is resolution Stratford Minor Baseball Association Agreement, And there is a staff recommendation that the agreement between the Corporation of the City of Stratford and the Stratford Minor Baseball Association for use of National Stadium and the Dufferin Park Ball Diamonds be renewed for a further 5 years to December 31st, 2027, that the use of the Cirque Baseball Diamond and Optimus Park Baseball Diamond be added to the agreement, and that the mayor and clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to sign the agreement on behalf of the municipal corporation.
Thank you. A mover for that item. Thank you, Councillor Beatty. Second by Councillor Briscoe. Discussion. Thank you, Councillor Burback. Go ahead.
Thanks, through the mayor. I'm curious if there are other groups that also are able to use those baseball diamonds. Are there other softball and groups? And how does that work? Do they go through the Minor Baseball Association or do they come directly to the city?
Thank you. I'll turn it to the Director of Community Services, Mr. St. Louis.
Through the mayor, those diamonds that are listed in this agreement are hardball diamonds. And so all the hardball is run through SMBA, and any softball diamonds, i.e. girls would use Anne Hathaway or boys use Packham Road.
Thank you. Councillor Burback, anything further? That item's been moved in second. I will call the question. If there's nothing further, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Moving to item 7.9, it's correspondence regarding the Rural Ontario Municipal Association's call for nominations to their board of directors. As noted on the agenda, as part of the nomination process, a completed nomination form and a council resolution supporting the nomination of a member of council must be received by the deadline of Friday, December 23rd. Should a member of council be interested in submitting a nomination, a draft motion was listed on your agenda for consideration.
Any interest by council? Seeing none, thank you.
Item 7.10 is a resolution regarding the Green Recognition Program, and there is a staff recommendation that the
Can I
report
ask a
titled.
question about the other one?
Go ahead,
Through your
Councillor
worship.
Henderson. Yes.
Should we just make a motion to receive that information?
I'll turn to the clerk.
Through your worship, if there are no members interested, then there's no action required.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.10, as noted, is a resolution regarding the Green Recognition Program, and there's a staff recommendation that the report titled Green Recognition Program be received for information, and that staff be authorized to proceed with implementing the Green Recognition Program as outlined in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Will move that, and that's seconded by Councillor McCabe. Thank you. Discussion. Seeing Councillor Henderson and then Councillor Burback.
Through you, your worship, I think this is going to be a great program. It's going to be a wonderful way to educate the citizens of Stratford, whether you're a business, whether you're a resident, on ways that you can make your home more environmentally friendly by educating others about what you did or even your business. And in turn, you'll save money plus greenhouse gases. And I'm just wondering if our new climate change program manager would like to comment on it also after Jody's finished with her questions.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Burback.
Thank you, through the mayor. I just wanted to say a big thank you to our energy and environment student rep, Sammy Orr, who actually was spearheading the working committee that put this together. So thank you to the ICI Waste Reduction Committee, and to Sammy for her leadership. She's no longer heading that up, and so Mike Sullivan's taken it up. But just really like to thank them for all of the work that they've done to put this together. And yeah, and thank you for putting this together into a management report. And I welcome our new climate change program manager.
Thank you. You guys are certainly making my job easy here. So having said that, I do see our climate change program manager, Ms. Raleb here. Would you like to comment on this program?
Through your worship, thank you everyone for your very kind words. The intent of this program is actually to promote sustainability and sustainable practices within the community, and also encourage the community members to embed aspects of energy efficiency as well as decarbonization in their daily activities. there are 3 categories wherein participation would be open, and we do anticipate that this program would, should it be approved by council tonight, it would be available for participation in early 2023, that is January. So I would urge the community to apply for the program, and we look forward to receiving applications next year.
Thank you for your work on this item and the next, and this item's been moved and seconded. If there's nothing further on this item, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Through your worship, item 7.11 is a resolution regarding recent climate change initiatives, and there is a staff recommendation that the report titled Recent Climate Change Initiatives be received for information.
Moved by Councillor Burbach, second by Councillor Hunter. Discussion. Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. And once again, welcome to our climate change program manager, and thank you for your early work on this. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Item 8 is business for which previous notice has been given and there was none scheduled. Item 9 is reports of the standing committees, and there are no standing committee reports to be considered. There was also no notice of intent. So moving to item 11, which is reading of the bylaws. There are 5 bylaws listed for consideration as follows. Item 11.1 is agreement with Festival Hydro Inc. for water and sewer billing services. Item 11.2 is to award the tender for the replacement of fire alarm systems and associated devices. Item 11.3 is an agreement for the use of National Stadium, Dufferin Ballpark, Cirque, and Optimus Ballpark. Item 11.4 is an agreement for the operation of a refreshment booth at the William Allman Arena. And item 11.5 is an agreement for the hazmat response services. And these bylaws can be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council present.
Thank you. And mover to take those items collectively. Thank you, Councillor Briscoe, second by Councillor Beatty. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's unanimous. And then we're moving on to the first and second, and mover for the first and second reading of the item 11.1 to 11.5. Moved by Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor McCabe. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Thank you. And third and final, moved by, thank you, Councillor Burbach, seconded by Councillor Niger. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Councillor Hunter, did you have a question or were you voting? I'm sorry.
My apologies, Your Worship. I was voting ahead of time.
Good, you're a little keen. I like that. Thank you. So I'll call that question again. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Item 12 is the consent agenda. Are there any items listed on the consent agenda to be considered by council?
Seeing none.
Item 13 is new business. Are there any new business items?
If I could, Ms. Defoe, there's one item that I'd like to bring to the attention of council. On behalf of council staff and residents, I would like to recognize our Director of Community Services on his retirement. And I know Mr. St. Louis didn't want a lot of public recognition, but it is well deserved. So Mr. St. Louis began with the city on December the 3rd, 2007 as Director of Community Services. Mr. St. Louis has been an important part of the city's corporate leadership team since joining the city, has been responsible for the administration and direction of parks, recreation, cemetery, and transit operation, which is a big portfolio. He continued he contributed to a number of significant projects during his time, including the construction of the new Stratford Transit Terminal, the integration of parallel transit with public transit, the development of the new recreational facilities such as the splash pad and Shakespeare Park. Prior to joining the city of Stratford, David was with the director with community services of the town of St. Mary's, and before that, the city of Iqaluit. I've had the privilege to work with David, primarily with the Rotary Community Complex facilities and the Agriplex. His quiet diplomatic approach was appreciated. It made work go smoothly. Hopefully, retirement will bring more time for family, golf, and curling. We wish to thank you, David, for your 15 years of service to the city of Stratford. You will be missed, and we certainly wish you many years of retirement in your future. Do you want to say anything, David, as we?
Just thank you, and most of it was a lot of fun, and I'm certainly going to enjoy retirement.
Thank you, David. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And back to you, Madam Clerk.
Through your worship, there are no standing committee meetings scheduled for this evening. I will note the year-end council meeting is scheduled for December 19th at 7 p.m. So the final item of business is adoption of the confirmatory bylaw, and it requires first and second reading and third and final reading.
A first and second mover, please, and thank you. Thank you, Councillor McCabe, and second by Councillor Briscoe. All in favor? That's unanimous. And third and final, Councillor Seven and Councillor Bean. All in favor? And that's unanimous. And our final item is the adjournment of the council meeting, moved by Councillor Burbach and second by Councillor Wardolfa. All in favor? Opposed of any? And we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.